I've never liked parties, especially not ones thrown in my name. But that night I tried to surrender to the moment, the music, the warmth, the way Lucas squeezed my hand beneath the table. All those people, all that laughter, and me, just quietly counting the minutes until I could slip away and breathe again. I remember exactly what song was playing, what colour the lights were. I remember the shimmer of my engagement ring in the glass, and how Lucas whispered, "One more dance, then you can escape." He always knew when I needed an exit. He always knew me best. So maybe it's strange that when my phone buzzed, a text message in the middle of my own engagement party, I felt a wave of relief, a distraction, anything but small talk. I pulled the phone from my clutch, expecting something mundane, but the words on the screen, they didn't make sense at first. "You're finished. Consider it my gift." I just stared, blinking. The sender, Ethan Beckett, newly promoted director, the founder's son, the man who'd never quite looked me in the eye. My breath hitched, my mind raced. Surely this was some mistake, some sick joke. But then I saw the second message. "Hope you enjoy your special day." Everything around me slowed. The music, the chatter, the clinking of glasses, all faded into background static. My bouquet slipped from my hands, petals scattering across the polished floor like the plans I'd so carefully made. I felt Lucas at my elbow, his grip steady, his voice low. "Some gifts are better left unopened." I tried to speak, but my voice caught in my throat. "He chose today, of all days," I managed to whisper, barely audible. I wanted to run, I wanted to scream, but instead I smiled. Because that's what you do, isn't it? You tuck the phone away, you hold yourself together, you pretend nothing's wrong, even as the world tilts beneath your feet. What no one else in that room knew was that this gift would unravel secrets far more dangerous than losing a job. If you've ever been blindsided by betrayal, tap like or subscribe. You might miss what comes next if the algorithm skips you. Trust me, you'll want to hear how this ends. Sometimes I wonder if anyone in that crowded room really saw me, or if they only saw the polished version, the woman who'd clawed her way up from nothing, always calm, always prepared. I suppose I learned early to wear a mask. My parents, they brought us to this country with nothing but 2 suitcases and a handful of old photographs. My father took a job mopping hospital floors at night. My mother cleaned offices. They believed in this idea that if you worked hard enough, you could build a better life, brick by invisible brick. I suppose that's where I learned to build. Systems, boundaries, shields. Even when the world pushed back, I pushed harder. By the time I met Mr. Beckett, I was 24, exhausted, and already convinced that the rules were never written for people like me. But he looked past my last name, past the accent my mother never lost. He said, "You're the backbone of this hospital, Emma." He believed in me before I could believe in myself. I spent 2 years developing Gracefield's data security system, hundreds of hours, thousands of tiny lines of code. It was my proudest achievement, a system so tight even I struggled to find a flaw. When the board approved it, Mr. Beckett shook my hand in front of everyone. His son, Ethan, didn't clap. I noticed, even if no one else did. Ethan. I always felt him watching me in meetings, eyes sharp, calculating. He'd say things like, "Maybe it's time for a new approach," right after his father praised my work. I tried not to let it get to me, but you know how envy lingers, even if it's dressed up as progress. Lucas understood. He's never needed to be the loudest voice in the room. In a world full of people trying to prove themselves, he's steady, almost stubbornly so. He works in compliance, keeps the hospital honest. The way he loves me is quiet. He fills my car with gas before I notice it's empty, makes me tea when I'm up late working. He saw the late-night emails, the pressure from the insurance partners, the way deadlines seem to tighten with every new contract. He'd say, "He'll regret underestimating you." And I almost believed him. Lately, though, things have felt different. The insurance reps became more demanding. New consultants, people I didn't know, started attending meetings, asking odd questions about data accessibility, best practices, as they called it. I brushed it off as routine, but now, I wonder what I missed. Sometimes I'd find myself alone in my office, watching the city lights flicker against the glass, and I'd think about what my mother used to say, "What you build can also destroy you, Emma." I used to laugh at that. Now, I'm not so sure. Pride has a funny way of twisting into dread. That night at the party, as I replayed Ethan's message over and over, my pride curdled into something cold and uncertain. I felt the ground shifting, the walls I'd built trembling, as if a single word could bring it all down. The next morning, I arrived at the hospital half an hour early. Habit, I suppose, from all those years when I had something to prove. The lobby felt different somehow, the greetings more guarded, eyes flickering away as I passed. I told myself I was imagining things. I wanted to believe that. But when I scanned my badge at the security gate, nothing happened. Again. A beep, a red light, and that's it. My picture, my name, locked out as if I'd never existed. Someone from HR was waiting in the hallway, her smile stretched thin. "Ethan wants to see you before the morning meeting." I could feel the knot forming in my stomach as I walked into the conference room. The whole team was there, even the junior techs who never came this early. Ethan was standing at the head of the table, hands folded. He looked so calm. "We're making some changes to improve efficiency," he announced, barely glancing in my direction. "Effective immediately, Emma will be stepping away from her responsibilities. It will be handling any transitions." The room was silent. I watched people avoid my eyes. Some looked relieved, some uncomfortable, most just distant. For a moment I almost laughed. 2 years building a fortress, and now I'm locked out. Packing up my office was like packing up a version of myself I wasn't ready to say goodbye to. Every sticky note, every faded photo, every little memento that meant nothing to anyone else. I heard whispers in the hallway, rumours about me, about why I'd really been let go. That's the thing about bridges. Sometimes when they burn, it's not even your match that started the fire. When I got home, there was a voicemail waiting from Mr. Beckett. His voice sounded older, tired. "Emma, I did not approve this. Call me when you can. Only you can fix what's breaking." I listened to that message 3 times. Only you can fix what's breaking. The words circled in my head all afternoon. Lucas found me sitting on the floor, surrounded by boxes, staring into nothing. He crouched beside me and pressed a printout into my hands. Some new approvals that had come through his office that morning. I barely glanced at the numbers at first, but then I saw what he was pointing to. Authorizations moving faster than ever, safety checks marked as complete before anything had even been reviewed. "Something's off," Lucas said quietly. "These new approvals, they don't make sense. Someone's pushing him, someone outside." I tried to sleep that night, but I kept seeing the hospital in my mind, my fortress now breached. I replayed Ethan's face, his certainty, the strange consultants with their 2 bright smiles and their questions about access. It was as if, in trying to shut me out, he'd left the door open to something far worse. In the morning, I logged into the backup server, one last time. I followed the trail of digital footprints, unauthorized logins tied to Ethan and his new partners. Files opened, copied, rewritten. Patterns that made no sense unless you were looking for them. Bridges burning behind me and ahead only fog. Just as I shut down my computer, a new notification flashed. An encrypted file had been sent to my personal inbox. No sender, no subject. It started as a whisper, one minor alert here, a late-night call there. At first, I thought I was imagining things, but within a week, the hospital's system was gasping, shuddering, limping along on workarounds I'd never built. Admissions froze, charts vanished, medication orders failed to process. Nurses blamed the computers, doctors blamed the nurses, and I watched from the sidelines, helpless, yet somehow still at the centre of it all. I'd kept an encrypted admin access, a back door, maybe paranoia, maybe just foresight. I told myself it was for emergencies. This was an emergency. I could see error logs stacking up, cascading failures triggered by rushed approvals and unfamiliar fingerprints in the code. Ethan's fingerprints and those belonging to accounts I didn't recognise. One night my phone buzzed, unknown number, no caller ID. I almost ignored it, but something made me answer. Ethan's voice, stripped of arrogance, was brittle with panic. "Emma, I need your help, please." There was background noise, maybe his kitchen, a clock ticking, a child's cry muffled behind a closed door. I said nothing, just waited. He took a shaky breath. "I know what you must think, I do. But if I don't fix this, people could get hurt. My family, Emma, please." I stared at the wall, feeling heat rising in my chest. "You had a choice," I said, the words heavier than I expected. "You always did." There was a silence, then he whispered, "Not really. Not once they got involved. You don't understand, there are people behind this, people who don't take no for an answer." I heard the desperation, but something in me flinched at the thought of forgiving him, of letting myself soften. All those months of suspicion, humiliation, loss. It wasn't that easy. The next morning, the hospital's chief of medicine sent out an all-staff alert. "Due to technical difficulties, please use manual charting until further notice." In a hospital of this size, that was a disaster in the making. I sat at my kitchen table, clutching a mug that had long since gone cold, staring at the email, my name missing from every distribution list. That's when Lucas came in, arms full of paperwork, eyes shadowed from lack of sleep. He'd been digging, following his hunch that something was wrong with the insurance data. "Emma, look at this," he said, spreading reports across the table. "There's a pattern, dozens of approvals, all rushed through after you were locked out. But there are inconsistencies, tampered records, and this name keeps coming up. Jameson from Sable Assurance. Supposed to be compliance, but..." He trailed off. I scanned the documents. Sable Assurance. I remembered their reps, always so polished, always hinting that faster authorizations would benefit everyone, except the patients. Lucas caught my eye. "You're the only one who can trace this. If you do, you could bring them all down. But you'd take the hospital and Mr. Beckett with them." He hesitated, then admitted softly, "I wish I'd noticed sooner. I kept thinking I could protect you or warn you, but I'm sorry, Em, I should have fought harder." I pressed my hands to my temples. My mind spun with anger, betrayal, dread. "Whatever you decide," Lucas said softly, "make sure it's for you, not for them." Over the next 2 days, Ethan's calls came again and again, first pleading, then bargaining, offering money, titles, even partial ownership if I'd just come back. Fix the mess. Let it all be forgotten. "Public apology if you want," he stammered once. "We'll make you look like the hero." Hero. The word tasted bitter. I hadn't wanted revenge, not at first. But the longer I sat in my silence, the more power I felt in simply not answering. Then, one night, Ethan showed up at my door, his face gaunt, eyes bloodshot. He looked older, smaller. "Please, they threatened my family. I never wanted this. I made a mistake. Please." His hands shook as he offered me a folder. Contracts, emails, evidence of manipulation. If you turn this in, it destroys everything. The hospital, my father's legacy. But if you walk away, they win. You have the power to decide, Emma. He left the folder on the stoop. I didn't pick it up for hours. I sat on the floor back against the door, listening to the house settle around me. Rage pulsed under my skin, but beneath it, pity, even understanding. Was it really revenge I wanted, or something more, something that would make sure no one else ever had to watch their work become a weapon against them? As dawn crept through the window, I made my choice. As I weighed Ethan's desperation against my own anger, I realized revenge wasn't the only power I held. There are moments when time slows, the world narrowing to the span of a table, the echo of a single sentence. That's how it felt the morning I walked into the boardroom with the folder in my hand, a folder that felt impossibly heavy, as if the entire future of the hospital was tucked between its pages. No one expected me. They were already gathered, 6 men and women in dark suits, Mr. Beckett at the head, his posture ramrod straight, his expression brittle. Ethan stood off to the side, eyes ringed and wary. For a moment I hesitated in the doorway. I heard the hush as conversation died, a dozen silent questions flickering in the air. I took a breath. "There's something you need to see," I said quietly, laying the folder on the polished table. Mr. Beckett's eyes searched my face. "Emma, what is this?" "Proof," I replied, voice trembling but firm. "Proof of system sabotage, insurance fraud, and external coercion. All of it, every approval, every bypass check, every manipulated record. It's here." Someone laughed, a nervous, disbelieving sound. Ethan closed his eyes. I pushed the evidence forward. "Look at the login records, the changes in authorization patterns. Payments from Sable Assurance to a private account. Yours, Ethan. And emails, threats, demands, instructions. I'm not the only one who's seen them. Lucas has too." The room felt suddenly smaller, the air sharper. Mr. Beckett's face paled as he sifted through the pages. "Ethan, is this true?" His voice was so soft I barely recognized it. Ethan didn't look up. "It is. I thought I could control it, that I could keep it compartmentalized, but they threatened my family. I made a deal I couldn't keep, and then I made it worse." A beat of silence, thick with shock and something like grief. I felt the old urge to soften the blow, to rescue everyone from the consequences. But this time, I stayed quiet. One of the board members whispered, "We have to report this. If this gets out, federal charges, revoked licenses." I cleared my throat, interrupting. "You have a choice. You can call the authorities and let the hospital burn with Ethan, or you can let me help you rebuild it, transparently, publicly, with new protocols and oversight. I'm willing to come back, but not as your employee. I want full independence. I'll design a new security system. I'll run compliance training for everyone, including Ethan. Everything above board, no exceptions." Mr. Beckett's hands trembled. He looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in months. "Emma, I should have protected you. I let myself believe everything was fine because I wanted so much for Ethan to succeed. I failed you. I failed all of us." His eyes flicked to his son, then back to me. "Now I'm asking for your help to save us all." Ethan finally met my gaze. His voice was barely a whisper. "I'm ready to face the consequences. I want to help fix this if you'll let me. For once, I'll build instead of destroy." It wasn't forgiveness I felt, not yet. But I saw something real in his face. Shame, yes, but also hope. One by one, the board agreed. Ethan would step down. He'd cooperate fully with investigators, expose Sable Assurance, provide everything they needed. I would return, not as a subordinate, but as a partner, independent, protected. I set my terms clearly: absolute transparency, public accountability, zero tolerance for secrets or shortcuts. Every decision would be documented, every vulnerability addressed. No more backroom deals, no more hiding. Mr. Beckett nodded, relief and remorse twisting together. Emma, the data security department is yours. Lead it as you see fit. As the meeting ended, I reached for my old hospital badge. Still there, cracked and worn from years of use. For a moment I stared at it, remembering everything it had meant and everything it had cost. When I slid the new one onto my blazer, it felt like closing a door I'd built with my own hands. I looked at Ethan, then back at the board. This is bigger than pride. It's about trust. Lives depend on what we do next. There was a kind of hush, an ending, but also a beginning. I could feel the shape of the ashes left behind, but somewhere inside I could also feel the bones of something new, something unbreakable. From ashes, a new foundation. Rebuilding is quieter than destruction. There's no sudden crash, no dramatic collapse. It's slow, painful sometimes, and it happens mostly in silence, long after the headlines have faded and the drama has bled out. That's what the months after that boardroom morning felt like. A hush, a clearing, the world waking up new and a little unsure. We started from scratch. I spent weeks untangling the code, patching holes, tightening protocols, designing new systems that would never rely on a single person's trust or a handshake deal again. There were days when I wondered if it would ever feel safe, if the cracks would always be visible to me, even if no one else could see them. But the work mattered. Other hospitals noticed. I got calls from administrators in other cities, asking how we'd done it, if I could help them protect their patients too. Gracefield became a model for public safety, a blueprint for how to fail and then stand back up, stronger this time because we remembered the cost of looking away. Ethan started over. The board made it official. He was stripped of his title, his privileges, his easy authority. He became a trainee reporting to my department, assigned to shadow every person he'd once ignored. He apologized to every technician, every nurse, every analyst. Some accepted, some didn't. But he kept showing up, day after day, learning everything from the ground up. Humility looks different on everyone, but I could see it changing him, slowly the way rust turns to something solid and true. Lucas and I, we bought a little house, nothing grand, but full of light and room for beginnings. I used my new consulting bonus to start a scholarship for young women in STEM, girls who looked at the world and saw doors they'd have to build themselves. I wanted to give them more than just money. I wanted them to know that you could survive the burn, that ashes weren't the end. One afternoon, as spring pressed in through our windows, I got a letter from Mr. Beckett. His handwriting was shaky but careful. "Emma," he wrote, "the future belongs to those who admit their blind spots. Thank you for seeing what I wouldn't. I'm retiring now, but I'll always be grateful for what you built and rebuilt." Sometimes late at night, I think about revenge, what it really means. People want fire and fury, punishment, endings. But the real thing, the thing that lasts, it's setting a new standard. It's making sure no one can ever use your work to hurt others again. We build, we burn, we rebuild. That's how progress happens. Ethan once paused in the hallway, uncertain, holding a stack of manuals. He looked at me, really looked, and said, "I hope one day to earn back the trust I lost." Lucas, watching the exchange, put a gentle hand on my shoulder. You turned a betrayal into a legacy. That's real justice. Maybe, or maybe it's just the next right thing. Either way, as I close my laptop and watch the first hint of sunrise spill across our quiet street, I feel something I haven't in a long time. Not victory, but peace. A sense that I've rebuilt something no one can ever take from me again. If you're still with me, thank you. I know not everyone sticks around for the whole story, especially when the pain isn't wrapped up in a perfect ending. But if you've ever faced something that threatened to break you, or if you've ever had to decide whether to destroy or to rebuild, then maybe you understand why I had to share all this. Sometimes the hardest part isn't surviving the betrayal, it's choosing what comes next. Do you light another match, or do you clear the ashes and try again? I'd love to know, have you ever faced a betrayal that changed your life's direction? Was there a moment, a decision, that set you on a new path? Share your turning point in the comments below. I'll be reading them, and maybe your story will help someone else searching for a way through. And if you believe, like I do, that true power is about protecting others, not just protecting yourself, then please like and subscribe so you never miss these stories of courage and redemption. Algorithms can be unpredictable, just like life. Hit that bell so you'll always know when a new story arrives. One last thing, who do you think should be the center of the next story? Should I revisit my father's journey or dig deeper into the network that almost destroyed us all? So tell me, if you were in my place, would you have exposed Ethan no matter the cost? Comment yes or no below. And help me pick the next chapter. Should I dig deeper into the network or explore my father's story? Your vote decides what comes next. And remember, every system, no matter how strong, has a weakness. Sometimes what you rebuild attracts new eyes, because sometimes the best revenge isn't payback. It's rebuilding what no one can ever take from you.